This episode is brought to you by Bleacher Report. How do you follow sports? From college football to the NBA, Bleacher Report brings you the latest news, live scores, and epic highlights from your favorite leagues, teams, and athletes, all in one app. Dive into exclusive shows hosted by your favorite athletes and original Bleacher Report series with breaking news, rumors, and predictions all season long. Download Bleacher Report to personalize your coverage.
Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for adults with migraine with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents, on average, 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Ask your doctor and visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
I am well, thank you. It is not icy. It is not foggy. It is, in no way have I got any kind of internet issues at present, and I am indeed in my own house in the own country I live in. So I think that's all the check boxes of recent problems with Scouted, Raw, and anybody else who's been podcasting.
I think so. It is miserable here. Absolutely miserable here. But, you know, we make moves and we carry on. It could be worse. We could be floating on a large chunk of ice through the North Sea like Guy. 2024 comes to an end. Today is New Year's Eve, and it ends obviously with the Reds top of the league. It ends with the Reds flying in the Champions League and obviously in the EFL Cup semi-finals. Things could not have gone much better for Arne Slot. So today we thought we'd take a look back at 2024, both from a Liverpool perspective and a general football perspective. So, Karl, let's start with this. Your overview of Liverpool 2024.
I think overwhelmingly positive. It's been a pretty emotional roller coaster kind of year, let's be honest. There was unexpected stuff and then there was long drawn out stuff, both of which had different emotions attached. At different times we've looked amazingly bad. We've had real optimism for the future, and there was also a stage or two where we had annoyance for the immediate future. I can't see right at this moment anything other than positivity, though. Obviously, being top of everything helps. Being largely unable to be beaten helps enormously. But also, I think just the on-pitch way that we can see a general, not just improvement, but areas where we can still improve by just the fact of time and more time with the new coach and more people given time in their new roles and so on and so forth. It's quite clear that we have a really good roadmap ahead for on and off pitch improvement, which not just in terms of Liverpool, but when you compare it to some other clubs out there, it's quite astonishing, really, how bad others get it when we get it very, very well and very right. Obviously, it's fair to say that we couldn't necessarily have predicted the exact way that Arne Slot has gone on the pitch, but even so, I think everything's in place to help whatever plan he had go as well as it possibly could. What we're seeing is that it's going better than we imagined.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up on, we're 27 days from when Jurgen announced he was leaving on the 26th of January. And at that point, there was a bit of a feeling that the sky was falling in, and you had everybody, all the talking heads, rushing to announce the demise of Liverpool. And, it was very hard to see how we would replace Jurgen and not take, at least in the short term, a step or two backwards. But Arne Slot's come in, and obviously the structure at the club has been rebuilt immensely. And things couldn't have gone any better. Like, things literally could not have gone any better unless we'd beaten Forest. If we'd beaten Forest, then yeah, sure. But to be 27 games in under a new manager and to have only lost once and to be top of everything and flying in the cup and feeling like you're the overwhelming favourite to win the league, and regardless of what Gary Neville wants to say, it's a remarkable thing. And look, we both spoke about this before Jurgen left, about how his legacy would be built in the years following his departure, as well as what he did at the club. And this is part of that. I mean, this is his group of players. The only one who arrived in the summer was Chiesa, who's barely played. So this is Jurgen's group of players. But Arne Slot is getting wonderful results with them. And everybody should be very, very positive about the club right now. So, putting Liverpool to one side, what else has stood out for you this year in terms of the Premier League, for good and bad? Like, is there a team, obviously Forest this season, that's maybe overachieved to a huge degree, or somebody that's underachieved to a huge degree, that you just find really interesting when you kind of take a step back and look?
Yeah, I think there are a couple. I'm not sure about overachieving. I think just general impressively achieving in terms of like getting better, and they're following their own progress plans. Like, obviously Brighton are ones that we've spoken about over the last couple of years. So if you accept that Brighton are now at that level that they've been at, that they have been improving, and they have been, slightly zigzag up and down or whatever. De Zerbi did well and didn't. Potter did well and didn't. Hertzler did well at the start and has obviously gone through a sticky spell. But basically, they are now thought of as effectively a top half team. So if you leave them aside and say they're where they are now, who's next in line following them? Bournemouth, I mean, astonishing. Really, really good. I mean, we talk about Brighton previously being a small club who've had to make their way. Bournemouth Stadium holds fewer than 12,000 fans. Like, they are a small club and they have been doing enormously well. They obviously had a buyout of the club not all that long ago, but I think things were well in place beforehand. They'd made really good moves. They'd established themselves in the Premier League. Now I think like their transfer work has gone to another level. I think has been excellent. I will say I did have doubts about one or two players. Like Evan Nielsen, I thought they paid a lot of money for and wasn't sure quite how effective he'd be for them, but he's been really, really good part of the team. Not just a good individual player, but of the team. He fits again. And Donny Iraola, we've spoken about at length. I think he's a very, very good manager for the level of club that they are. I think he's put himself a platform to, come the end of the season, he's basically going to have his pick. His Bournemouth contract is up at the end of the season, unless I've missed something. And he could well renew there because he's building something good, or he could go on to a bigger club now. He's shown now in Spain and in England in like 2-3 consecutive jobs, he can put something in place quickly and then build from that, and in a very, very impressive manner. So I would say that they would be the pick of the other teams who I think have improved dramatically. I think we also probably have to acknowledge that the Chelsea is in a very, very different type of building and platforming is now starting to show us what it could be. Obviously, they're not there in terms of consistency yet, or they've still got a manager who is only 19 games into his top flight career. We have to remember that as well. But it's interesting to see the development of that squad, that club, and how it does eventually come together and how it has needed a bit of an iron hand, if we're being honest. There was lots of criticism aimed at Maresca after he walked in and sort of said, you're not playing, get out. But clearly the team building process that he's chosen is working for them at the moment. So I think that's a really interesting one to keep an eye on. And then the other two that I would pick are our two big rivals for different reasons. The collapse of Man City this year is incredible to witness. I'm not saying that in a joyous and spiteful way. I do mean in a sporting sense. It is unbelievable to witness. Like I struggle. I don't obviously have as much exposure to other sports as you do, for example, American sports and so on like that. But I couldn't really think of another example of a team which had been doing so well and sweeping all before them and had collapsed to the extent that Man City did. Like, I know they've only lost 6 Premier League games, but across all competitions in that run of, I think it was 1 in 13, 14 in the end. Something.
Yeah, 1 in 13, yeah.
And performing as poorly as they did and a lack of cohesion. And yeah, I know they won their most recent outing. I also know it was against Leicester. And
they were terrible.
Yeah.
They were terrible. Leicester should have scored a couple of goals. Could easily have gotten a draw.
So it is a very intriguing thing to witness, again, from a sporting perspective, from a mentality perspective, how they eventually turn it around, because they will. We know they will. They'll turn that around, whether that's a different setup, whether it's mentality, whether it's just slowly getting themselves back on the victory train and building confidence that way, or whether it's spending hundreds of millions of pounds over the next 2 transfer windows. One way or another, they will get back to playing very good football and winning lots and lots of matches. In the meantime, it's a really interesting case study as much as anything else of Pep Guardiola. And obviously Man United, I don't know. If you watched the Newcastle match last night, it's intriguing to find a team able to plumb new depths just when you think that they've already hit the bottom. And then you have like Gary Neville talking on telly and saying, well, they can't get any lower. And people in the studio laughing at him going, yes, they can. There's a few more places lower they can go yet. Yeah, they could be 15th by the time they play against us. Palace played Chelsea the day before Liverpool playing Man United. Don't know what result Palace might get, but they've been certainly playing better, and Chelsea, as we mentioned, just in a bit of a funk, so it could be Man United 15th by the time they play. I think there's a lot of storylines out there which are curious to witness one way or another, even irrespective of who you support.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I love the 4 clubs that you've mentioned. With United, I mean, the thing is, so they lose 2-0 last night to Newcastle, but in that second half, they could have scored 2 goals and fluked a draw that they wouldn't have deserved at all. And that's what they've done countless times over recent years, is they've gotten results they didn't deserve, and it's kept managers in jobs for far longer than they should have been in them. I said when they hired him, I think Amorim was the best manager they could have hired, but I thought United was the worst job he could have taken. I was stunned that he decided to leave Sporting at that point to go to United, given the absolute dumpster fire that we're witnessing with them and that we have witnessed with them. And especially with this ownership group who are fairly new in the door, still trying to figure out what they want to do with the club, don't have a good track record of ownership at the other clubs that they're involved in. And then obviously Amorim's barely in the door, and Dan Ashworth, who they waited so long to get and made such a big deal over, he's leaving. It just all points to a club that's in complete upheaval and shows no signs of really figuring things out. City, like you said, I mean, they've got phenomenal players. They've got one of the greatest managers of all time, and they've got an unlimited amount of money available to them. So they are going to figure this out. Now, it might be a bigger rebuild than people are willing to acknowledge. It might be a thing that they need to move on the likes of Ederson and Bernardo Silva, as well as the kind of players that are well into their 30s. It may be that they need to move on your John Stoneses as well, because he's so unreliable from a fitness point of view. It may be that they need to bring in 8 to 10 players to completely overhaul that squad. But they will do it more efficiently than, say, a United would, because they're a club that knows how to go and win things. And United no longer know how to win things. They can win a domestic cup, but they don't know how to win the Premier League anymore. It's been 11 years, and the only thing that links them to that era is the owners, who nobody likes. You mentioned Chelsea, and they're fascinating this year, where we're seeing a maturity from young players. You know, we're seeing them grow up and having to grow up very, very quickly. The likes of Cole Palmer, the likes of Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Romeo Lavia, Levi Colwill, Nicholas Jackson. These are guys that they're hoping will be key components of their team for the next, 5 to 7 years, which, funnily enough, doesn't even cover their contract lengths. But there's still flaws in the team, obviously, and there's still things about them that they need to improve and sort out. And you mentioned the manager. He's very inexperienced at the top flight, and he needs to figure some things out as well. Like, he needs to figure out how to manage game state a little bit better. But they're certainly interesting. I never felt they were a real title contender this season, and now they're 10 points behind us with us having a game in hand. So I think that's bearing fruit as well, that they just won't be a title contender this year, but they are serving notice that they will be in years to come. And that's got to be a little bit worrying, not for us, but for Arsenal, who may well have missed their window here, where, they came second. In all likelihood, they come second again this year. They'll go into next season as one of the favourites again, but if we're not falling off, if Chelsea are going to be in that mix, and if City are going to be in that mix, all of a sudden it becomes a 4-team race, whereas it was a 2-team race for last season, the season before. And this season, if they finish second, you'd say there was only one team you needed to overcome, because City were so poor and Chelsea are so inexperienced and so young. But for Arsenal, it becomes much harder to win it next season and the season after, because of the improvement of Chelsea, City getting back to where they are, or they were, and us. We should go from strength to strength. There's no reason to think that we'll collapse next year when we can add to this squad. And it looks like, based on what David Ornstein has had to say, it looks like Mo and Virgil will both stay. We may lose Trent, but I don't think Trent is as vital in an Arne Slot Liverpool team as he was in a Jurgen Klopp Liverpool team. So I think Arsenal are very interesting as well. How do they react to that? They came second, they went out, they spent well over 200 million on Rice, Havertz and Timber. They came second again. They went and they spent over 80 million on Calafiori and Moreno. Will it get to a point where those owners look at Arteta, look at the amount of money spent, and say, well, you have to win now. We're not putting any more money into this. That would be in keeping with what they've done in other sports. They own the Denver Nuggets, they own the LA Rams, I think they own the Colorado Avalanche, all of whom I'm almost certain have won their major trophies in the last couple of years. And I know that the Nuggets won the NBA title and the Rams won the Super Bowl. I'm almost certain the Colorado Avalanche, I'll just check this, but I'm almost certain they did win the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago. And they did. They won it in 21-22. So Arsenal are the only major sporting endeavour that they have that haven't won, the biggest trophies. And I don't know that they'll be willing to keep funding it. So that's going to be interesting to monitor. And I love that you mentioned Bournemouth, because I'm exactly the same. I just think the way they punch above their weight. Like, it's worth noting, there are 3 clubs in the National League that have bigger stadiums than them. there are 9 in League Two that have bigger stadiums than them. Like, League One, League Two is for the size of the club. That's where Bournemouth really should be operating. But through smart decision making, good investment, and, you know, great support from the local community, they've established themselves the way they have. Eddie Howe obviously did great work for a lot of years. But this fella they have now is different class. And I said months ago, if I was running United, if I was Dan Ashworth, I would have seen it out with Ten Hag or an interim till the end of the season. And I would have gone after Iraola. And I would have gotten an agreement done early. So you'd look after Bournemouth as well. You get the agreement done with Iraola so you know who's coming in the summer 2025. And you can start building for him coming in. Rather than what they did, which was just kind of ill-fitting for the squad they had. I thought his ability to come in, play a 4-2-3-1, which a lot of their players fit quite well with, and be able to build towards that, I thought that would have been smart. I think he'll either get the Newcastle job if Howe goes, or the Spurs job if Ange goes. I'd be stunned if he's not top of both lists, because I think he's that good. And for me, over the course of 2024, when you consider the back half of last season and what we've had so far, he's the manager of the year for me. The manager of 2024, I think he's done an outstanding job.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality bikes, which might lead to another discovery. Getting back in the saddle isn't always comfortable. Good news is Sierra has massage guns. And chafe wipes, too. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
When you share your food, you share your heart. So what's on your table this holiday season? Save on your festive feast at Kroger with delicious deals on all the holiday classics. Or wow the crowd with something new, like a quinoa stuffed butternut squash. It's sure to add a pop of color to your spread. How about a sweet potato casserole with a crunchy oat streusel topping, made with care for the sweet tooth and the savory tooth? With Kroger, fill your table with love and watch as your guests' hearts get as full as their bellies. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Screwball peanut butter whiskey? Why the hell not? A little salty, a little sweet, a little savory, and always smooth. Screwball, the original peanut butter whiskey that's unexpectedly delicious. Visit ScrewballWhiskey.com to learn more. That's Screwball with a K. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2023 Screwball Spirits, LLC, New York, New York.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, hard to argue against that at all. The consistency that they've shown, I did a little look on them yesterday. They have taken enough points over the calendar year. This was up until including the Man United game, I think it was, so just before Christmas. And they haven't been beaten since then either. So they were on course for what would be, in a normal season, an average to take them to sort of 7th or 8th place. They've never before hit like a 50 points in the Premier League season, which is wild. They're already on 30 now. They're going to, barring an absolute catastrophic end of season, they will fly through that barrier. It will be a historic season for them.
And they're loads of fun to watch as well. And like, he's getting a tune out of absolutely everybody. Like, we both had significant doubts about Kluivert. He's playing really well. Semenyo's playing out of his mind. Evan Nielsen's doing really well. Ouattara, he's brought him back in. Now he's playing well. Tavernier was playing really well. David Brooks, who thankfully has overcome the illness that he has, he's come back and he's been fantastic in recent weeks. Like, whoever he puts in, whether they've been out in the cold for 3 months or playing every week, he just seems to be able to tap into something with them. And you rarely see a player go through a prolonged funk under his management. It's really, really impressive.
What about in terms of players, then anybody you pick out as having really gone like an upsurge, even if it's only the first half of this season, so the latter half of 2024?
I think, having been the source of a lot of ridicule among Liverpool fans for the first half of the 23-24 season, I think Moises Caicedo's put together a pretty outstanding 12 months. I think he's been the best midfielder in the Premier League this season. I thought he was excellent at the back end of last season, particularly when he's not partnering Enzo. I think he really shines. I think him and Lavia is a better partnership that just has better balance to it. I think he's been brilliant. I think Semenyo is another one who's just taken his game to a new level. Like, when they signed him from Bristol, it was under Gary O'Neill, and it was that January where they signed a bunch of players and kind of threw as much money as they could at staying up. But he's the one that's really stood out. He's been great. And Morgan Rogers, I love watching him play. That he's just so unique. Was he 6'2", 6'3"? That level of dribbling ability, the upright nature of his game. He's a lot of fun. And then obviously Cole Palmer. I think you've got to point to him. But I do also think he's drifting towards being overrated now, because there's been such a media surge behind him to anoint him as the Footballer of the Year for 2024, when I think the Footballer of the Year for 2024 is the fella that wears number 4 for us. He was incredible last year. He's been incredible this year. Mo, obviously unbelievable this year, but wasn't good the back half of last season, so I don't think he's in that mix. Well, there's been some magnificent players, but the ones that really stand out to me that have taken a jump that I don't know that I saw happening would be Semenyo and Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers has been wildly impressive. That's been, like, considering where he was this time last year and where he's performing now, like Champions League quality performances on a consistent basis. That is an outrageously good step up, and against really good opponents, and the off-ball work to go with the on-ball talent. His ball carrying is something special. It's one of the most impressive things, the way he uses not just the size of his body, but technical ability, the appreciation of space and which direction to go to get away from people. Really, really good. I think he's magnificent. I would probably also say Morgan Gibbs-White in there as well.
Oh, yeah. What a player.
He was already good. I know you were already like a massive, massive admirer, but I do think this season, actually going back to, let's say, about March, because at the end of last season, he was the one who was keeping Forest up. Like, yeah. Thinking about this, he was doing absolutely everything. But this year, because they've been obviously flying high in the table, there's like more of an emphasis on them and what's gone right and what they've been doing well. And Chris Wood has obviously got headlines, and deservedly so. And at the back, I saw Ola Aina was picked in a couple of team of the season so far. That's perfectly fine. Milenkovic has obviously been really good, and his partnership with Rio has been worthy. But in amongst that, I think Gibbs-White's performance has been lost a little bit, or overlooked a little bit maybe, because again, for all the defensive resilience, Forest have won a lot of games, and part of that is his ability to be the conduit for play going into the final third, for his consistency in linking with whichever of the wide forwards have been in form. obviously chipping in terms of chance creation still as well. Just a really, really good all-round player. For bounce back of the year so far, like bad second half of 2024, good first half of 24-25. I would say Cody Gakpo is probably up there as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Luis Diaz?
Diaz as well, but I mean, Diaz was already a starter. Gakpo was like nowhere at the end of last year.
True.
You know, he was, I know Gravenberch has obviously gone from being barely in the side to being a starter, but that was kind of out of necessity, whereas I think Gakpo has been just basically his game simplified, put him back in his old role. He barely played left side last season. He's been given the confidence, he's been given the role to do that he knows how to do it and that he knows he's good at. And it's just been excellent, just really, really good. And we're finally seeing more of that physical aspect from him as well as the technical ability as well, which was something we were very keen to see last year and didn't really get to see. So that's definitely been a really good thing to see.
And the thing with Gakpo is, like, Diaz is playing really well this year.
Yeah.
But Gakpo has played so well that he's forced Arne Slot to move Diaz out of the left wing position he was fiving in and put him through the middle. Now, obviously, injuries also were a factor in that. But, like, Jurgen would have put Cody central. He wouldn't have moved Diaz central. He would have moved Cody if both of them were playing well and kind of Jota was out and Darwin was in such bad form. We'd be seeing Gakpo through the middle, but Arne did it the other way around. And it's benefited both of them. Like, they're both having really good seasons. And it doesn't matter with Diaz, seemingly whether he plays left wing or through the middle, he's able to maintain a decent level of form. So that's really, really good. I love the Gibbs White shout. He's in my team of the season so far. I think he's been brilliant. I have him. I don't know if you saw the Tim Sherwood team of the season so far thing where you could only pick one player from each club. So I did that as well, as a little thought exercise, and I have him in my team of the season as well. I think he's been brilliant. And he's been absolutely brilliant. He is one of the best creative passers the league has seen in a long time. And he marries it with really good off-ball work. That Forest team are fun. And the thing is, they're going to get Ibrahim Sangaré back. And Danilo is back next month as well. So I assume that they will fall off. I don't think they'll get top four. But they're about to get two big players back for themselves who will improve them. So they're going to be in with a fighting chance. And the thing is, this is now a legitimate, like, second place, but Arsenal have a game in hand. If Arsenal win against Brentford tomorrow, it's still a very legitimate third place for Forest. Look, it's not like the teams behind them have games in hand or anything like that. Forest have played the same number of games as Chelsea. They've lost the same number of games as Chelsea. But they've won one more game than Chelsea. And, you know, people do talk about, you know, the resilience, how defensively strong they've been. Yes, they could definitely add more goals. They've only scored 26, which is the lowest of the top 12 in the league. And in fact, Wolves have also scored more than them. So, you know, you've got 12 teams that have scored more than them. But they're winning games. They've won 11 games. Only Liverpool have won more games. And if Arsenal win tonight, they'll have won the same number of games. And they'll only be ahead of them on the basis that they drew 2 games that Forest lost.
So let's have from you one player and one team, nothing to do with Liverpool in either case, where for the remainder of 24-25 season, so for the first half of 2025, you get to see them really improve where you think, to the point where you think that they should be. So a player really fulfilling his talent who's looked like they could do recently, and a team who, let's say, need to get their shit together, who go on and do so for the second half of the campaign.
I think Palace could be that team. I think they've overcome an awful lot of injuries so far this season. You know, Wharton's missed time, Doucouré missed time, Eze missed time, Chadi Riyad's missed most of the year so far. I think Palace could be the team that put together, not like the back end of last season, but I think they'll be a lot better in the second half of this season. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them, enter the conversation for 10th come the end of the season.
Quite a lot to make up.
They're 7 points behind Brighton at the moment. Yeah. So, they've started to hold them in a little bit already. Part of that obviously is a lot of teams are just in very weird form. Like from Fulham down, there's nobody who's won more than from other than Newcastle. Newcastle have won 4 in a row. Forest have won 5 in a row. Liverpool have won 3 in a row. Arsenal have won 3 of 5. Nobody else in the league has won more than 2 of the last 5 games. So there's a lot of choppy form right now. Like Fulham are unbeaten in 5, but they've only won 1 of those 5. 4 draws.
Southampton and Leicester are very consistent.
Yes, consistently dreadful. They're the most consistent teams in the league. But so I do think there's a lot of flux there in the middle where we'll see a lot of teams kick on. We'll see some teams regress a little bit. I just think Palace have underachieved significantly in the first half of the year. I think Glasner tried to get a little bit too clever at the start of the season with some of the things he was doing, like not starting Mateta and going with Nketiah as a 9 for more movement. But he seems to have settled now on Mateta with Sarr and Eze behind him, and it's working really well. Munoz is in great form at right wing back. Mitchell's playing well. The defence seems to finally be settling in. Chalobah's getting a lot more games, and he's starting to show why a lot of clubs are keen on him. If they get Wharton back and Doucouré takes another step forward in his fitness and is able to play more frequently, that's a hell of a midfield pair to put into that team. So I think they'll be a strong team in the back half of the season. A player I think can kick on. I think I'd go back to Villa. I think Boubacar Kamara, he's been easing his way back in. I think if him and Onana get a run together, that's going to be a really strong pairing for Villa.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.